With the introduction of Zephrys the Great to Hearthstone, Highlander decks have been making a resurgence on the ladder. Practically every class can make use of Zephrys, thanks to how strong it simply is. Being able to have a panic button at the ready whenever you need it has proven to be even better than players anticipated. On top of this, the card can even find you lethal when needed, making it such a versatile tool. Some classes have had more success with their Highlander variants than others, and Highlander Warrior is a prime example. While Warrior doesn't have as much Highlander support as other classes, the class has access to enough versatile cards that the archetype can perform very well. Before we take a deeper look into the deck, make sure to subscribe to the Tempo Storm Hearthstone YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our content. Now that that's out of the way, let's jump right into the deck's game plan. Highlander Warrior typically plays out like a tempo deck. Some players have experimented with more control-based shells, but the tempo lists are performing better. It's important to look for a consistent curve in each matchup. Missing a turn can be very detrimental to your win condition of curving out. As a tempo deck, missing a few turns can easily spell defeat. When playing each turn out, typically you want to look for the largest minion that you can develop each turn. For example, typically you'd rather summon a Frothing Berserker on turn 3, opposed to playing a Frightened Flunky and a 1-drop. Of course, there will be situations that call for you to play differently, but make sure to keep this in mind. Another important thing to remember when playing Highlander Warrior is that you need to actively keep your opponent off of the board. When possible, look to use either your weapons or your rush minions to deal with their threats so your pre-existing board can go face. Don't hesitate to use your board to trade as well when needed, as you aren't an aggro deck. It's important to fight aggressively for board control, as it's hard for you to take it back once lost. As the game bridges into the later stages, look to maximize face damage so you can close out the game with some of your burst. It's important to be able to recognize when you have lost board fully though. No matter how good Tempo Warrior is at fighting for board control, sometimes you won't be able to maintain your grip on it. If you've lost the board and it doesn't seem like you'll be able to retake it, fear not. Your deck has a lot of tools that allow you to simply transition into an aggro deck. If you feel like this is the case, start using your rush minions to keep yourself alive, while using your weapons and burst damage to try to close out the game. While it might seem unlikely, with a little bit of luck you just might get there. Highlander Warrior is a very versatile deck, and if piloted well, it can get out of a lot of tricky spots. Now that you know the general game plan of Highlander Warrior, let's take a look into the Mulligans. We'll be breaking down the Mulligans based on different archetypes such as aggro or control. Against aggressive decks, it's crucial that you don't miss a single turn in the early game. As we mentioned before, losing the board in these matchups can be very punishing. Aim to keep your 1 and 2 drops with a strong emphasis on keeping Zephrys the Great. If you're ever too far behind on board to come back naturally, Zephrys will be your saving grace. If you already are keeping a 1-drop, then keeping Livewire lands is also a good choice, as this card is extremely powerful. The ability to interact with your opponent's board while generating a lackey is very strong and shouldn't be underestimated. Against slower decks such as Control Warrior, look for sticky minions and, as always, a curve. A very good minion to keep in this matchup is Frothing Berserker, as it's hard to remove and can be a strong threat if left unchecked. If you pressure them each turn, it'll be hard for them to continuously remove your threats. It's hard to find wins against control decks, so don't feel bad if you're struggling in these matchups. Oftentimes you have to draw very well and will need to outplay your opponent. Just remember that their removal is limited, so if you play around it to the best of your abilities, you'll find yourself winning more and more. The last mulligan we wanted to briefly take a look at is for when you're playing against Shaman decks. Shaman currently makes up around 1/3 of the ladder meta. The majority of this is a mix of Quest and Evolve Shaman, but there is a tiny bit of Murloc Shaman showing up. In general, the mulligans are the same as for when you're facing aggressive decks, but it's extremely important that you have an answer for either the Desert Hare and Evolve turn, or for Mogu Fleshshaper and Mutate. If presented with the option, don't hesitate to keep Execute or Reborn Mummy against Shaman. If you can keep them off the board early, you should be able to find a win unless they have an insane Thunderhead turn to take it back. In conclusion, Highlander Warrior is a solid choice for ladder. The deck is very flexible, and on top of that, it's very refreshing to play. If you're looking for a new deck to try, we can't suggest this enough. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we hope it helps you learn more about Highlander Warrior. Make sure to like the video and to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching!